get in there and see what he's brought to this event that's taken him to 4-0.
All right, so I would venture to say, if I knew anything about Monsanto, that he would opt for some kind of control mage, because he used to be known as one of the, I wouldn't say most iconic, but one of the primarily freeze mage players, and we've seen a little bit of control mage in the event. Tars brought his own version of it. We've seen Exodia mage as well played, which is one of the things that was trying to target Exodia, or rather to target Priest. So it's been interesting not seeing as much of that as I had anticipated. So control mage, do you think that's something Monsanto would bring?
Yeah, I mean, he's a player that likes control stuff. He was one of the players that liked, he hasn't got to use it yet, but Blackguard, when everyone's doing like the pre-tournament assessments, the pre-new meta assessments, one of those cards that stuck out to him was the Blackguard, the thing that just does damage while you heal. As it happens, the way the meta has gone, that has not happened, of course, as a viable combo.
All right, well, the players are ready for us to spectate them, so we're getting right into it. Right now, as I said, Iniesta on 1-0 and Monsanto on 1 win and Monsanto on 0 in their series. We are jumping right into what seems to be a Warlock versus Warrior match. Iniesta8, I believe, to be on the Warrior side, and Monsanto on the control-y side with the Warlock deck. Oh, this would have been a threatening board had there not been Tainted Zealot and Defile.
Just a note that Monsanto and Iniesta, we've just said it once, just to recap, they are 4-0 in a tournament where 7-2 should be enough to get you through to the top 16. So it's getting to the stage now where that extra life is genuine. You lose in round 1, you're like, well, yeah, I've now got to go 7-1. You lose here, you're still 4-1, you're still up there fighting for that top 16 very strongly.
All right, we see Iniesta's list at the top here now. Leroy Jenkins might come. I mean, most people would say, oh, that's not surprising, it goes in Face Warrior. Well, a lot of people have been cutting it. Right. To be very honest, I feel like that card has fallen out of favor. It's one of those cards that kind of is disputed about with the same thing as double Spellbreaker. Like, is double Spellbreaker worth running? Is Leroy worth running? That's still a discussion that's ongoing, and it really depends on what you're facing off against. Because while Leroy is great against, say, rogues, because they have no self-healing, the moment you start going for a class that has some, gets a little bit more questionable.
Yeah, and pirates in general have evolved to the point where everything they have should really dominate the board, apart from maybe that heroic strike, which does have double purpose. You can actually blast through a huge taunt or something with it. Whereas Leroy is literally almost played exclusively to kill your opponent on that turn.
Right.
And if it's in your opening hand, as we see now, it just sits around, not helping you win the game, apart from the 6 damage it does at the end. And sometimes you need more than that. You need something to help you with the board or whatever.
Yeah, and we're being told as well that Iniesta, this is his first tournament, so this is a big thing to think about. He is 4-0 in the Swiss rounds in his first tournament. He was extremely nervous. He acknowledged that everything was a little bit nerve-wracking, but now that you find yourself up against someone of Monsanto's caliber, it's also a little bit more stressful. To be fair, being the aggressor in that position when you're maybe not as familiar with the tournament scene might be an easier way to approach the game.
He looks comfortable. Yeah. He does look comfy up there. Some guys up there the first time, you can tell they're not enjoying it. But no, Iniesta's taking it all in his stride at this point.
And he's got the lethal with the Reaper and the Leroy heroic strike with exactly 15. Monsanto might have thought he was safe, but lo and behold, Leroy Jenkins was in the list. And this is precisely what Leroy is there for. Yeah. A single card slot, 6 damage.
Yeah, it's around the right turn every time as well. The other version of what I was saying earlier, where it sits in your hand, the turn you use it, you usually need it about turn 7, turn 8, which is about the time you can combo it with those other cards. Exactly as we just saw, that's the exact job, which means that people haven't just dropped it out of hand and people still think about it.
And the interesting thing too is that if you look at the score, right, 2-0 for Iniesta, what that means is he's already nearly sweeping with just the Warrior. Has not used his Priest yet, has not used his Paladin, and Monsanto's down to his last deck, which of course, one could argue is the best deck, and that is the Priest. But yeah, it's extremely difficult to climb back in through a mirror match at the very least, and another match with the Paladin and the Warrior to face off against primarily. So you need some very consistent I would say, variance in the early games for your draw in order to be able to fight off the first aggressive deck and then find the right cards.
But as we are seeing already, we saw it with Zalay earlier, we saw it with Zalay in a way in the last match as well. Prix just 3-0s a lot of the time at the moment. So if you're going to be stuck 2-0 down, you want to be stuck 2-0 down with your Priest still to come and a Galaka Crawler in hand against Pirate Warrior.
And that's got to be one of the best draws in actually, probably the best draw against this matchup in Monsanto's deck. There are still, you know, Potion of Madness, Shadow Word Pain. A lot of people say Dragon Fire Potion is not quite good because you're often dead before that. I've noticed that it's usually a decent second card to have if you have a good answer for the early game. Dragon Fire is the emergency button mid-game.
Yeah, I quite like it. As long as you do hang on in that early game, just get rid of that potential second wave, just win the game. It's a bit like Greater Healing Potion. People discuss that, whether it's good or not, but sometimes you just need to confirm that you've stabilized.
Yeah, and that's exactly what the card is meant to do. Actually, there was an interesting test run by, I forget which playtesting group, that started trying to figure out whether or not keeping Dragon Fire Potion in your mulligan, and that goes back to the earlier days of when the card was released, against Pirate Warrior, whether that was correct.
Well, whether you just drew into enough stuff that the Dragon Fire was always useful.
Right, you always had enough tools to handle the aggression, and then Dragon Fire just stabilized you for real.
And what did they conclude?
I think it was something, I don't want to say inconsequential, but it was something in the 52 to 48% that you should keep it. You should keep it, such that, I mean, in a Razaka's Priest, perhaps less so, since you also are looking for those very specific one-ofs in your deck to handle aggression. But back when the metagame was a bit different, people started...
That's really interesting.
Yeah, it was surprising to me. Kind of like the win rate increase of something like Coin South Sea Captain.
Right.
It just blew my mind.
Talking of things that increase your win rate, eating pirates and then putting a 3-4 down ready to kill the next pirate is pretty good.
He could coin out Spellbreaker on this.
He thought about that, right? He hovered over it, and there could be a thing he chooses to do.
The alternative seems worse, which is to play something that does nothing.
Yeah, and doing nothing seems bad as well because it allows your opponent to develop. You're not expecting Priest of the Feast, really, but any 2/2 drops, a 4-drop, combination of stuff, even a 3/4, anything goes. You've got to do something about this now and fight for that board.
I mean, how many 4-drops are there that are going to pester you? We haven't seen, I don't believe, too many Gnomish Inventors. We've seen a little bit of them, but not too many.
Right.
And in the deck, the only other card that could come out here that uses Silence would be maybe a Blood Mage Thalnos or a Priest of the Feast.
And we've already established that Priest of the Feast is a nightmare whatever you do on this turn. So you kind of have to shut your eyes and hope they don't have it, which, of course, he does, because they always have it.
Well, when it's me, they always have it.
Exactly.
When I'm the Priest, you bet I'm looking at my 8-drops.
And your tech cards that you put in,
you're
Geist because you're playing ladder and you're sick of losing to Druid, even though you know you shouldn't play Geist.
You play double Geist, double Crab in every deck, and then you never see a single...
The right one.
Never happens.
Don't Geist those Pirate Warriors, it just doesn't end well.
You take away the upgrades. Then they draw more heroic strikes.
Big stuff. All right, so...
Back to serious Stone. Here, let's get back to reality. So he's got, you know, the Kor'kron Elite. It looks mediocre, and it mostly is, in that you're able to push phase damage, but then any spell sort of mitigates that. The downside is if you don't do that, then you're playing a 3-4 without getting the weapon charge, which seems also to be questionable. It also opens you up to Shadow Word Pain. So the Bloodcell Cultists and the Kor'kron are fighting for your mana right now. And I'd be inclined to just try to play Kor'kron and hope for the best.
That's what he's going to go with. And get some damage in at last.
And that's a Holy Nova if it's... I mean, you don't have to, because Raza's amazing in this spot. You're doing so well.
Play it, yeah.
You're doing so well. Raza's just busted. Galaka Crawler, huh?
Seems like a good card in this deck. In this meta, of course.
Maybe printing 2-mana Geist would solve the issue.
It's only a perceived issue.
No, but what I mean is the purpose of Geist, as people assumed it was if you played Geist, maybe at 2-mana it would be more likely to work as a tech card, because it's easier to weave in everything.
Yeah.
Well, Monsanto, pondering whether or not Raza's worth it. I'd say because of Reaper, you're probably a little worried.
But on the other side of that, you have Holy Nova in hand as well. You can heal a decent amount, kill a lot of stuff, occupy this board. See what he chooses to go with.
It's Nova.
Actually going to go with Nova. Just protect the priest, of course, which... Okay.
This is not so bad. I was going to say Iniesta seems like he's going to be running out of steam soon, but he's got the extra weapon charge from the cultist. He's got the South Sea Captain, which are huge, granted that you don't run into a Dragonfire Potion. And you've also got the second Reaper, such that if something happens to the first one, which would be a devastating, you know, scenario, at least you've got a backup weapon. So maybe you've still got a fighting chance here.
Yeah, I don't think he's under any immediate danger of losing the game. It's just the thing that Priest does is draws into stuff so well. Again, this Novice Engineer, even it's just another card off the top coming in a turn or two's time. Oh, everything is just so nicely setting up for Monsanto here. Now he's on 30.
I was going to say, if he picks up Power Word Shield off the draw, the Reaper does nothing. And the Reaper now does nothing.
Don't fear that Reaper, that is for sure.
I like the reference.
I try my best.
You know, I actually realized something after I started eating a lot of spicy and hot sauces.
Where's this going?
Oh, it's just going in a general... Okay, so we're talking about the Reaper.
Yeah?
You mentioned the Reaper. I feel like a lot of the extremely hot sauces, some of the hottest ones, always have a reference to the Grim Reaper.
They really do, yeah.
Okay, you've noticed that too.
And there's always like some sort of danger symbol on the front, like beware.
You're going to die if you eat this, which makes you wonder...
You think, well, that was hot, but I didn't die yet.
Yeah, I really wonder. I'm glad to see another hot sauce aficionado on the desk.
Yeah, I like myself some hot sauces, must be said.
All right, Iniesta opting for the double pirate play as opposed to the one Hydra. I'm not sure if I agree with that, but that's the line he's going for nonetheless, because he wants to make sure his weapons are as impactful as they can be, which means you need to get the charges now and then worry about it a little bit later.
Just getting word that Muzzy has beaten Ray C 3-0. Just going toe-to-toe with Zalay. They're both 4-1. They're both destroying amazing players. We might see these guys in the final yet.
Or in the next round.
Or in the next round,
Who knows? That's the thing about this current... The way this is going is you never know if they're going to be right around, since they could be matched with one another as early as next round. Now, Monsanto, with all the answers, can play Shadow Word Pain, trade away, keep himself very high in health. The weapon stabs start, you know, hurting a little bit, but as long as they're not representing lethal, you're more than okay. And then you've got a zero-cost hero power.
Yeah, this game just looks over from where Iniesta sat. Obviously, the Hydra gives him a little bit of hope.
You know what the best draw would be? Upgrade, clearly, right? Like, you just pick up an upgrade, you get another Reaper, and then you pick up another upgrade, and then we're still talking, and then you pick up a Cultist. If you can get the extra charges on that Reaper, you can win the game on the back of just that. But you need to get them now. And
that's twice today you've said that.
I
the
don't know.
Just come flying off the top. Have you got some sort of time machine going on here? Have you created one in your lab somewhere?
Yeah, pre-recorded.
Sean Head.
No, they've started now with fish on head. If you don't fish on head.
Fish on head?
Yes.
I'm so behind the times.
The reality is that people started pre-recording videos of them putting shoes on their head, so it's very easy to fake.
How do I get a fish even if I am live?
Well, that proves you're really there.
I guess.
You go out and buy one.
All right. Luckily, we're not on screen, or you would be able to see the fish on my head currently.
Whoa, okay, unexpected play here. I had expected fully the upgrade, but I guess he's gonna go for the pirate setup.
Yep.
Hopefully that's not he doesn't upgrade the hook. Just gonna go out there and assume that's not happening.
Monsanto is going to be able to deal with this Hydra, and that is one of the threats that is left, because so much damage needs to be done by Iniesta. Dealing with a Hydra is just going to make life so much easier for Monsanto. I mean, it always does, but when you're on 26, really, what other damage are you going to do? So he might hit you 3 times with an Arcanite Reaper for 18 or something. It's still not enough. Just deal with this while you can.
All right, that's an interesting line. So, if we rewind, would he have had enough damage? I think maybe that's the reason. He's thinking he has to play a longer game. But the longer this goes, the more I believe it favors the Priest.
Monsanto might also, I said this every time, but you can also start weighing up lethal options into the Hydra. You just have to be aware that there is no way to trade into it enough times to just kill your opponent when you're in this spot. Because, yeah, you can steal the 1-1, and if the Hydra hits you, so what? And you can actually start setting up your own lethal here. That's what he's possibly doing.
He's got 4 sources of damage to throw right into it. Oh, that's got to hurt! He picks up another upgrade effect.
Wow.
Had he just upgraded the Reaper? Had he just?
Just looking at this, I think this is getting close to lethal for Monsanto next turn. Depending
Probably,
exactly
yes.
how Iniesta plays this.
Correct.
He can damage the Hydra 6 different ways as it stands at the moment.
That's enough to kill your opponent 6 times 3.
At the moment, but obviously there's things that will change in the meantime, like armor, etc. But
you do have to heal the Hydra to get the extra damage in at the end, though.
1, 2, 3, 4. You do. Luckily, you have this button that you can press.
At 0 mana. This is when Prix has an embarrassment of riches. They just throw heals on opponents' Hydras to kill them.
Yeah.
And
What's
here
happening?
we go. We're upgrading the hook. Ah, the nightmare scenario. We're playing the trading game here. This is no good, but if this sticks, again, you have another way to push. It keeps going back to whether or not Monsanto's he's got the Dragon Fire Potion. It keeps going back to that. So he's able to deal a total of 12 damage. Well, actually, Pint-Sized Potion lets him kill his opponent, I think.
That's what I'm trying to work out.
No, I think he's got it. Pint-Sized Potion. You trade away the pirate you have on the right side. Oh, but it goes down to 0 afterwards, right?
Yeah, you've got to be able to steal it, but then you can't attack with it. There's mistakes he can make here that look like lethal. I'm not sure there are any actual lethals.
I see the ability to push 12 very easily. The question is whether or not he can push 15.
Right. And you're looking at making the cultist smaller and stealing it, put it onto your side, but it doesn't get the buff from the captain anymore. And
I mean, who knows?
Attack.
Maybe the way it works is it doesn't. I mean, we've seen some weird interaction with Enrage and Aldor Peacekeeper in the past that have done similar things.
And Defile with Hyena.
Right, yes, that's another one of these. That one's very counterintuitive, but...
Just keep killing the Hyena until your beats have gone. But why wouldn't you do it this way anyway? You're on 30 on 6, they're a Pirate Warrior, they've got nothing, you've got a taunt. It's fine.
So that's going to be lethal on the back of a Pint-Sized Steel Holy Smite. That's creative enough for me. And
Explore, and Goro's the one for the day for me. But 2-1. Monsanto still with his Priest. Has got to get through the mirror and presumably a Murloc Paladin. We haven't seen a Control Paladin yet, and these guys are on a good scores.
I'm going to assume Iniesta's not on Control Paladin, although who knows?
I mean, who knows, but it just looks like a standard strategy from what we've seen.
Yeah, have there been any techs in Murloc Paladin that have kind of surprised you recently?
None that I can come to mind. Have you got one in mind? There's sort of 35 cards you choose from, but nothing seems bad.
Yeah, Bone Mare's sort of the most recent addition to that deck.
I think that every time I see Grimscale Chum, I feel it looks out of place for the slightly faster build.
Right, I think what was cut for that? It was the 2-drops, I believe.
I feel like you just don't gain much. You speed up, but not enough to really take on the slightly slower build.
Yeah.
And it doesn't really help you at all against something like Priest, because you just drop a bad 1-drop.
Yeah, we haven't really seen a resurgence of Cold Light Seer either. That's sort of dead in the water, and it's been for a while.
So to speak, that's where Murlocs usually end up dying.
Yeah. Poor Cold Light Seer. I mean, it doesn't help against Shadow Word Horror, so it doesn't help. Monsanto on the Priest seems to be carrying on the legacy of the class in the tournament, which is, well, you're in trouble, just bring it out and take it. Take the series.
One of the things that you can talk about with the Murloc Paladin, I don't think it's a thing that's happening, but it's a thing that people look at and then think, no, I'm being silly, is taking out Tyrion.
Yes, I've seen it done with Uther of the Even Blade at the top end sometimes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Just take out Tyrion because it's not quite needed, but at the end of the day, you still end up just playing the Tyrion anyway, because you've got to be very sure of yourself to take out one of the best cards in all of Hearthstone. But the point being that all your bone mares and stuff are winning you the game. You can play an extra cheaper minion and just have more things for them to buff because they're good enough without having the Tyrion.
I've seen some weird builds of something like Token Paladin trying the Grim Necromancer, the 4-mana 2/4 that summons 1/1 skeletons.
Yep.
Mostly played in something like a Druid token deck, but I've seen some Paladins justified by saying, hey, we can get extra bodies for buffs.
That's the other card you see sometimes, is the 2/2 guy that makes 8/8 if it's killed. And then you buff it up and you can't kill it, it has to be silenced, otherwise an 8/8 appears.
The Skelemancer thing.
Yeah, that's a card that I think Amnesiac played around with for a long time and people still put it in occasionally.
All right, Iniesta on the Murloc Paladin, as predicted, with the array of expected minions. The Righteous Protector there to act as a really good shield bearer, to be honest. This is kind of what it is. And if you remember shield bearer being played in Zoo, this is kind of a great Voidwalker version for Paladin. It's absolutely insane. The synergy with Rallying Blade, I mean, it doesn't get much better for early game tempo swing. Yeah,
and even with stuff like Redemption, that sort of thing, just get it all over again, get the whole card back for 1 mana. Like you say, the synergy with Rallying Blade and just the general slowing down your opponent in a lot of cases. In this matchup, though, it tends to just get stolen and actually act against you.
At least you get the body back, just not the Divine Shield, which tends to be the most valuable thing to use proactively. Oh, this could be interesting. There's a world in which we end up with a Corpse Taker with Wind Fury if he's playing the Storm Watcher. I'm still not convinced by that card. I remain skeptical. Yeah,
Orange's lineup, which is the lineup that seems to have been copied a lot from HCT, just played the one of them.
Sure.
The versions they played in the HGG played 2, which I'm pretty sure... I'm happy saying I think that's incorrect now in the current matter.
Well, if
playing
the alternative
one, I'm
is
not going to
Bone Mare,
argue too much.
Right. If the alternative is Bone Mare...
Yeah, exactly. You'd rather have the 2 Bone Mares, I think.
Yeah.
But playing one, I'm not in a position to say that I disagree. I think it's okay.
Well, what if you cut Tyrion for the Storm Watcher?
Right.
Ah, there we go.
So that gives you a chance of getting a very quick early kill, X% of the time. And if you think that X is better than what you gain from just having some late game with Tyrion, then you have to make the swap.
Clearly. I mean...
That's how the numbers stack up. Yeah, stating the obvious.
Forever. Always drop Tyrion out of your Paladin decks, guys. You heard it here first.
Who needs amazing legendary cards?
I mean, if they're going to get stolen by Priest, who needs them?
4/8s are really good against Priest.
That's a good point. In the current environment, maybe there's something to be said about Stormwatcher. Because Bone Mare gets blown up by Anduin, but Stormwatcher is not getting blown up. You might have sold me on this.
Yeah, I'm not selling myself yet, but it's something that I think is worthy of consideration.
Iniesta here going to capitalize on that redemption to keep himself, the Righteous Protector, back on the play. I mean, Getaway Kodo is good as well in certain cases. This is not really one of those. The upside is if the opponent does not trigger the redemption on the Righteous Protector, then they can always give it to you on the Corpse Taker afterwards.
Murloc Paladin just looks so much worse when it doesn't do the 1, 2, 3 thing.
Yes.
We were talking about it earlier. Whenever it does do that, it just looks unstoppable. But when it doesn't, and you've got an army of complete garbage like this, it just looks so much worse. And I think this is what's stopping it from being picked by every single player. It's picked by a lot of players, but it's just that slight inconsistency.
It's like putting your faith in the deck requires that you've had success with it to a certain extent before you actually believe in it. And some people would rather be a little bit slower and play something like Warlock in their lineup. Shaman, Token Shaman is attempting to do something similar, but it also happens to beat that matchup.
I've seen very little Shaman, at least in the casts today. I thought maybe we'd see a bit more of that, but...
I thought it would be one of the more played classes, but the problem is if you ban Druid and you expect Priest everywhere, maybe the idea of giving them...
There's that card I was talking about earlier.
Which one?
Thoughtsteel.
Sure. Yeah, it's been played in certain Kazakh's Priest, again, as a means of beating the mirror match, right?
Yeah.
This is going to be interesting, as the redemption is going to give absolutely nothing of value had it been there. So very... I wonder if Iniesta8 ever waits for turn 5 to drop it. Come on, have Wind Fury, man. Do it. Do it! I demand.
You demand the Wind Fury. I think you will. I don't think you play it without Wind Fury much anymore.
It doesn't even have lifesteal on it. There's not even lifesteal.
It's just a 3/3.
With Taunt.
Okay.
And Divine Shield. It's a Silver Moon Guardian that protects your Murlocs. So what happened? Where's Wicker Flame Burn Bristle?
Where is the Wicker Flame? I mean, these are okay as a 3/3 taunt, but...
But I'm pondering why there's no lifesteal on it. Does it just not show up when your health is below 30? Surely it does.
Trying to think. All right, well, trying to think isn't working. Just going to carry on casting.
All right, so Raza the Chain here lets you keep your Radiant Elemental healed up. Also opens up a really cool turn 6 play with the Pint-Sized Potion and Cabal Shadow Priest, which you can use to steal something if the Radiant Elemental stays alive. I mean, that isn't a guarantee. It's even far from guaranteed, but regardless, that's an opportunity if the opponent lets you take it.
Iniesta just getting into the meat of this deck now. May well get good use out of Finger. The Spike Ridge Steed really helps that along as well. Should give him a chance to get a good Finger, but...
So he's keeping Redemption for something specific, obviously. I think he's going for that Tyrion late game play. Lest he would have played it instead of the Tidecaller earlier to get the Righteous Protector back.
And I'm fine with that. I think that quite often the Paladin deck does enough damage to nearly win, and the Priest is scrambling, and if you can just get one more big hit out of something, I'm fine with him trying to get another big hit out of a Tyrion. If you're going to put it in your deck, you might as well have 2 of them.
Sure, that's good reason.
Sort of swing a lot of damage, especially as he's curving okay right now. He doesn't need any of this sort of garbage back.
That's offensive.
I've always been offensive to Murlocs, to be honest.
Okay, that's fine. They're repulsive little fish.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly that.
Finja and Spiker's Steed can actually help you, as you said earlier, clean up the board and get yourself back in the game. I think the biggest advantage here is just the ability to get a threatening board that doesn't demand much of you, because Finja is just a simple guy to drop. The issue very often against Priest is there is no minion to kill. If you're at that stage of the game, very often they just have not had to play anything.
Well, we saw with Zalay earlier.
Right.
He just didn't play a minion for a turn or 2 and just let it sit there, even hitting him for 6 at one point. It's like, yeah, sure.
Yeah, until Finja's gone, I'm not playing anything. And so Iniesta might be stuck in the same position had there not been a Raza. And even with Spiker's Steed, it's not a guarantee that the Finja's going to be able to...
What if he's considering getting a 1-mana potion here to clear out everything but Finja?
I think that's the reasonable play, yeah. I like it. Slightly frustrating.
If he can get freeze an enemy minion and then get the one that kills all the others, he freezes the Finja because they orders it in the right order for you. You kill everything else and you freeze the Finja.
It doesn't get much worse, though. Gain armor, gain a card. I mean, please.
Yeah, this is the sort of card you wouldn't put in your deck if it exists. Or you would, because it costs 1 mana, but it's not much use.
Yikes. And that is going to be the swing turn Monsanto did not want to see coming. The 5 Finja into 6 Steed. And to kill the 4 health minion. To get maybe a War Leader to then allow a trade up. I mean, this is...
And Iniesta's hand is full of the stuff you need at this point of the game. All those 6 drops, all those buffs. He's got 2 Bone Bears to pick up. He could do with those, but he's going to have time to pick them up. He's going to be able to play Spike Ridge probably this turn. Redemption at will, turn 8 Tyrion, turn 7 will look after itself with this hand one way or another. And...
I mean, I'm going back.
Monsanto's in trouble.
That potion couldn't have been worse. Number 1, he got armor plus... he got card draw plus the freeze.
Yep.
The freeze landed on the worst possible target imaginable.
Here come the Murlocs.
Although you could make an argument that it's better to have the 1-2 unfrozen so that it can actually trade into the 3-3 if War Leader comes out. So you end up killing a bigger minion. Thanks for the Finja. I appreciate the support. Couldn't have done this without you, Paladin.
That's silly.
Welcome to the new age. I'm in your deck, stealing your Murlocs.
Yeah.
All right, how you feeling right now?
I feel like I've just been fingered. There's the bone mare that would have made everything nice as well.
I mean, it would have, but
it didn't.
It did. It failed to deliver on that front. Now we have the Tareem at least. Without Tareem, this would be a dreadful, like an impossibly bad state.
Right.
But he's able to make of these little minions something to trade up into nearly everything. He can kill the Stegodon and then have a 3/7 of his own left over to fight off against the board that's available. So unless there's presented to him, you know, a Shadow Word Pain, let's say, he should be fine.
How has Priest got into this position, like, as a deck, not in this game, where it can deal with this relentless onslaught of really good cards from Paladin using just a handful of things? It's insane.
I'm going to boil it down to it got a 2-drop called Radiant Element.
Sure.
I'm going to literally boil down this entire streak of
No, sure, it did finally get a 2-drop. That was always the...
Yeah.
There's a lot else going on as well, as people may have noticed.
Right.
But like, that's an interesting take on it, actually.
Yeah, because if you don't have it, then it's also one less card consistently in your mulligan against aggro, and against control, it's something you can't use. Now that you've got that and Lyra, the package together just makes such a big impact. You've got cheaper spells for Anduin. It's everything you want in a 2-drop in Priest. And that card is absolutely bonkers.
Yeah, and of course it has some other good cards, but that's an interesting take on it. Sometimes it's a 2/5 for 2. You just stick a shield on it and
you win.
Off you go.
And off you go, and you never have to worry again about having to control the board against aggro. And I think it's a little underappreciated beast. I mean, it enabled Purified Priest, to be honest. It enabled the current Priest decks that we have. The only deck that doesn't really rely on it, I guess, is the Big Priest, which has no care for that.
No care for these little things. He just likes the big things.
Okay, I like the play, silencing the debuff to get the trade and then get a 4/4 that contests the board. Fine.
Do you play Bone Mare?
I jam that Bone Mare.
You just gotta hope, right? If Anduin's there, he's there. That's the risk you take when you play this deck.
And then you just play Tyrion afterwards, so probably okay. Although on the flip side,
he's just gonna count the, yeah.
You could double trade and
play the Tyrion, count that Tyrion damage first. Try to tempt out a Death or an Anduin in advance. And also next turn, your 9 mana's better use Bone Mare plus Hydrologist. Maybe it's okay because of mana considerations and the timing of Anduin to just drop Tyrion here.
yeah, you got another seed in the deck, a Blessing of Kings. All of those line up pretty well with the spare mana you'll have afterwards. So that is true. It is more mana efficient and it pulls the weapon out. There aren't too many minions left to kill with the weapon, though. So that's another consideration as well. Not that I think that's a big worry, but surely you're worried about Anduin at this point.
You are.
It's definitely the biggest and the best answer to the Bone Mare turn. Better than Dragonfire. As good as Dragonfire is.
Yeah, it's just such a... Like, the turn you play Anduin, one of the things that Anduin's not so great against Jade Druid for, even though you think it'd be amazing, is the fact they can sort of run the pace of play going into the Anduin and make you play it and then just repopulate straight after. And the Paladin doesn't get to do that so much. It's a little bit more linear. You just have to drop it and Anduin comes down, protects itself.
Okay, Iniesta's gonna play it slower and not play Tyrion until he absolutely is on the back.
Right.
Interesting.
We haven't seen any sign of kobolds in this deck, so Curator probably not as good as it is in some decks.
I mean, there are Murlocs, at least.
But there's lots of Murlocs, or there's some Murlocs. Have we seen one War Leader or 0? There's one in his opening mulligan, but he got rid of that and never seen again.
None of them have been played out.
So Finja thinned out a lot as well. There could be both of them left. So Curator could definitely fetch a War Leader to push some damage through here.
Wait, maybe he went for turn 1 Vilefin into Coin War Leader. That might have been the previous series with the Rat. I'm forgetting the...
I've seen a lot of Murlocs taking a lot of Priests today.
Well, Noble Sacrifice here. Not particularly effective with no board. Getaway Kodo with Tyrion is fantastic, which is precisely what he was hoping to get.
Not a whole load of stuff going on for Monsanto here.
And the worry is that if there are too many Murlocs on the board, you get Janel Megazord to come out, and you're in trouble if you're Monsanto. So he's just going to have to control the Murloc population as much as he can before moving on.
And a War Leader is actually starting to look like fantastic news here for Iniesta.
Right, even if you're just buffing up 1/1, that's more than the Priest seems to be able to handle. So we can call it a day. It also dodges, it just sneaks right under Anduin. So all your Murlocs still are able to attack at 4 and 3 attack respectively. Yeah, let's go. Let's just play a 4-attack minion with Taunt. Good luck, Priest.
Ooh, okay.
Dragon Fire Potion's already been played. Megazord's right there. Curator's insane.
Curator is insane.
I might have played
and it doesn't even get played in all the decks anymore. That's how insane the rest of the cards are becoming.
Oh. So he chose not to play the Vilephen Inquisitor, interestingly. Because he could have, you know, buffed it up with Megazord on the following turn.
Right. You just get an extra Murloc this way.
Yeah.
Because you get to tap twice.
Maybe, but then you have a full board, so you can't Megazord.
So you can't anyway.
Oh, but in this case, you know, surely he will.
Yeah, maybe the feeling is that it doesn't matter if I've got a full board because I just win.
Fine. Have it your way.
I try to.
The Lich King!
The Lich King?
The Lich King!
The Lich King.
The
Lich
King.
Wow.
That's where the Stormwatcher went. That's where Wicker Flame Burn Bristle went.
But why did the Corpse Taker hang about to watch?
I wondered.
That makes a lot more sense. Actually, you'd still want the Corpse Taker just to buy yourself that bit of time to get into the Lich King.
The Lich King.
And that's where he got with it. And he's just going to jam that bad boy onto the table and just start drawing nonsense.
Monsanto's eyebrows just raising. Thinking, wow, maybe this is something I should have played around. Okay.
And then thinking, no, I'm not that tired. It's not that late in the day to start hallucinating Lich King.
It's so interesting the way that the Lich King was added here instead of Wicker Flame Burn Bristle. It's as though Iniesta said, okay, I can still beat aggro. I don't need Wicker Flame to buff Corpse Taker to have a good matchup against something like Pirate Warrior. All I need is to get myself something that wins against Prix. Getting an extra late game card maybe does that. I'm not sure if that's...
And that card's amazing, by the way, because both War Leaders are still in the deck.
Yeah, but then
you spit them out and put them straight into play.
You have to make room on the board for that.
No, I mean, this is going to win him the game. If this is dealt with, then he has the refuel. That's
sure.
what I mean. Yeah, it's only amazing if you don't actually just win with what's on the board in the first place.
I mean, it's never happened to me. Usually what I end up getting is just some... I get all my spells. I get Steed, the weapon. So he's going to get double Rallying Blade.
Well, you play Lich King in your Paladin too?
Every day.
I thought you might.
I do it because people play the Black Knight, and I want to give them a good target before I drop tier.
Yeah, what happened to that card? It was everywhere a few weeks ago. Right, decision time here for Iniesta. He doesn't need to play it yet. He has just enough reload without messing around. Guaranteed reload that he can control. He'll do that first in some way or other. And Monsanto with the Priest deck is just getting overwhelmed by the Murlocs.
As it should. Now we're starting to talk about real board states. Monsanto's down to 1 Anduin to really deal with this board state. Now the Megazord finds 4 targets once it's played on the following turn. With Gluttonous Ooze, no help here.
Definitely not what he wants right now. It might not be what he wants for the whole game. Iniesta in his first ever tournament.
Currently beating Monsanto.
To go to 5-0 if he does pull this through.
My mind is blown.
Yeah.
The Lich King instead of Wicker Flame Burn Bristle.
Why not? It's looking good. Occupied a lot of Monsanto's time. Have to deal with it.
Wind Fury on that Megazord, jam that Kings. Seems really sweet. If you can get that Wind Fury, that is. You probably play Kings anyway, but point is.
Yeah, Wind Fury would be enough damage to hurt. See what he gets. Oh, the suspense is killing me. Pick it. he hasn't got any option. Monsanto's just waiting to see anything bad happen, but he's realised that Iniesta's taking a time because the 3 options, I mean, they're not garbage. They're going to keep this board alive, but...
At least it wasn't Wind Fury.
So Monsanto...
Endwin doesn't... I mean, Endwin helps, but not really.
And now he can go back to where he was, and it's going to be 3-1. Iniesta taking a 5-0 Swiss record.
He's going to stick to it. Okay, wait.
Oh, I thought he...
We have another turn.
That's twice he's gone bottom right. No, buddy, I'm going to keep playing.
Oh yeah, trade and play that War Leader, huh?
He's got space, he can trade, yeah.
Yeah. A little 1-2 needs to go. Although, does he even need it? I didn't do the math, but I'm pretty sure he's off lethal unless he plays War Leader. Oh no, the +4 does it. Never mind, he does it with Kings on its own. Ladies and gentlemen, Monsanto defeated by a player who's this is the first tournament for.
Wow.
I've never been faked out by so many near concessions. Monsanto had me going there for a bit, but unfortunately didn't work out for him in the end, even though he stayed in it as long as he possibly could have. What a storyline for Iniesta. That's absolutely fantastic for him. 5-0, matched by one of the most storied DreamHack players of the recent years. Terrence M right now is also 5-0, so Iniesta in very good company.
Yeah, Terrence M, did he win this last year? I believe he did. He's won Montreal before when it wasn't a Grand Prix event, when it was a smaller event, I believe.
When it was a smaller event, yes, he's shown up and actually taken it. So we've actually seen him a lot in the local tournament.
Yeah, he's been a big player in DreamHack tournaments since his debut at Austin in 2016. And then, of course, our first series of this round, Zalay taking yet another win. Him and Muzzy had been neck and neck with identical results in the tournament up until this round. And depending on how Muzzy did, they could still be identical. So it was
we got
really...
that through in the middle there. Muzzy also won.
Muzzy also won.
3-0, matching him absolutely.
All right, so they are still absolutely tied with the exact same records throughout the Swiss rounds today. So that was a very important win for Zalay. Unfortunate for the Rat. He's a fan favorite. Everybody really respects him, but this was just not his day.
That game really, I mean, it hurt to see him go through it.
It was rough. It was one for the storybooks, though. I think we're gonna remember that one for probably a little while. But we do have one more round coming your way. It's gonna only be one match from round number 6. We are gonna be getting right into that as soon as we possibly can. Don't go anywhere, guys. The final round of day 1 of the DreamHack Montreal Hearthstone Grand Prix is coming up.